Hi, this is Gil Robles, and I'm doing a sketch right now in a sketchbook. And before I go ahead and talk about what I'm going to talk about, let me just first say sketchbook has just changed from it went from being able to buy the full software package and downloading it on your computer to a subscription base, and now they're giving it for free. So it's a great time to go ahead and get this really great program. It's free, and it's free for individuals anyway. So I'll leave a link to the website down below. But I'm doing this sketch in Sketchbook. First, I'm gonna do a monochromatic sketch, portrait sketch, and then I'm going to go ahead and color it using an overlay layer, blend mode. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and talk about something as I go ahead and work on this, and that's learning to paint all over again. There's several times that this has kind of happened to me. One was that for a long time I kind of gave up on it. I went to high school. I went to the High School of Art and Design. I also went to Parsons School of Design. I've been to the Art Students League. I took numerous art courses and had some great teachers and so forth. But at a certain point in my life, I figured this was just going nowhere, and I just gave up. And to be honest with you, I never really took to the business end of anything. I've had several opportunities that I did not recognize as opportunities, and because I was not sharp on it, they kind of faded away. But so I reached a certain point that, hey, I was married, I had children, and maybe I should just focus on that. But what it became to me was that I didn't like the idea of just getting up in the morning and going to work and coming back home and paying the bills and making sure the rent is paid and so forth, and Con Ed and on and on and on, and there just wasn't much to life. I'm not. It just, what was the point of waking up if it was just to wake up and go to work and then come back? There has to be something that keeps you motivated to do things in life, and art was the thing for me. It's different things for different people, but art was a thing for me. So that I said that no, I need to go ahead and start back to working on my art and painting and so forth. So that's what I did, and you know what, it struggled for many a year because there wasn't there was a long time that I wasn't painting, and so I had to get back into it, and so it was a climb. Not that I was Rembrandt to begin with, but that doesn't matter. I just wanted to be better at being myself, at painting and drawing and so forth. So so I had to learn to paint all over again. Then there comes other times. There comes times where you're painting, and you're going along, and you feel like you're growing, and you want to keep growing and so forth, and you've reached a point, and I've gone through many times where I've finished a piece of work, and I initially, when I finished it, I felt like, wow, this is good, this is better than I've done in a while, and it could be anywhere from 2 hours to 3 days to 3 weeks later, and I'd say, wow, what a crappy painting. And that happens. But that, to me, that's just an indication that what, you're seeing your work better, and so you're growing, and you're growing because you're seeing the mistakes that you've made, and or at least I'm seeing the mistakes that I've made, and I can work at correcting them in my next painting. That doesn't bother me so much as what. Then there are other things that what, it seems like. There's artist block, of course. That happens to everybody, and there's different causes for it. Could be clutter with the things in life, and that's happened to me recently because I've worked on an illustration recently, and I worked hard to get to the deadline. Wasn't too crazy about the finish, but I had to get it within a certain amount of time. and to get it to at least look decent, so it was publishable. But so I was given a short deadline, and I did it and sent it off, and they said great, thank you, and I got paid for it, wonderful. But you know what? Because of that, I couldn't do much. Excuse me, I couldn't do much that week. Apart from that, then there was other things that I needed to get done for other reasons, and as far as painting is concerned, and there's still things that are hanging over my head. And then there's physical clutter. There's having a clean workspace, having a workspace where you're not having to find things and so forth. And so a lot of things can go into artist block and stuff like that. That's still not what I'm going to talk about when it comes to learning to paint again. Then there comes a time where you're going at a pace and you're learning and you're growing and then you just seem to just coast. It's just like nothing is happening. It's just like you're going from one drawing to the next and you're finishing it, and then it seems to become more and more unsatisfactory. Like, what are you doing? What can you do to push it? What can you do to be better? And I think that I've done that, and not that and this is not saying that drawing and painting is so good that you can't. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that, personally, I see the mistakes that I make, and I see it more and more often, and so how do I get past that? There comes times where I just couldn't finish a painting because it seemed like I forgot how to paint. And it seemed like I kind of flatlined creatively. Like there seems to be a point where I can carry a painting or a drawing, and I don't know what else to do. So the thing about it is that I've seen other videos where people talk about these strategies or the things that they do to get out of things and stuff like that. And I just, I think if you find something that works for you, that's great. And I can't say anything against it because it's something that that works for any given person. I can't do that stuff though. I just to me, it doesn't like, for instance. For me, well, first of all, let me just say, for me, it doesn't approach solving the problem. Really, it seems like a workaround to things. For me, it's like one of the things that I've heard people talk about is, look, if you're having trouble painting or drawing, then pick something that's easy for you to do, and just keep doing that, and you build your confidence and so forth. And you know what? If that works, that's great. But the thing is that I have to have a challenge. I have to have, if it's difficult for me, then I'm learning through the difficulty. So I have to have something that's a challenge for me to do, and it's just not it's just not something that's easy for me to do. Now, the way I approach things, portraits are extremely difficult. There are a lot of things to consider when you're painting a portrait or painting someone's head and so forth, and it's a challenge. There doesn't seem to be an easy thing about it for me. So every time I do a portrait, and then every portrait is different because every person is different. And the challenge is to make it interesting all the time. It's not just to paint something for the sake of painting it, but what about what you're seeing makes it interesting to you, and being able to communicate what you find interesting about that person's face or that person's head, and being able to share with someone to get them to say, oh, look, that looks interesting. And I'm not saying that I do that 100% of the time. I'm saying that is my goal, and that's always a challenge, to make it interesting and to communicate to someone else why this thing is interesting. So doing a portrait immediately is a challenge for me, but I'm not looking to do something just easy. And there are a number of things that I can do that would make things easy. And one of the things would be just to not strive for the realism, not strive for, to make it look like a person. And when I'm talking about realism, I'm not just talking about, crossing every T, dotting every I, make sure that the eye looks realistic, or, the lips look realistic, or whatever, or, I'm talking about painting the person's character, going beyond the just what you see and seeing something of the person's character in the drawing or the painting. And so there's a lot involved when I'm talking about being realistic. It isn't just the appearance of it as far as the technical things. It's also, kind of breathing a life into the portrait, where you can where someone can look at it and recognize it, not just as a drawing of or a painting of a human head, but a painting or a drawing of a specific character, a specific person, that there's something lifelike about the painting. So that's the challenge for me. And so, I like I said before, finding all these gimmicks to get myself back on track doesn't really work for me. What I have to do is continually work at what it is that challenges me. Just work at making a better painting, making a better drawing, and making it better than I did the last time. Now, that's not always easy. Well, that's never easy. But that's the way I find my answer. That's the way I find working out of this this area where you kind of plateau. I had an instructor at the High School of Art and Design who talked about it that way. He talked about, there's a way an artist grow. And when I say artist, this can apply to any discipline as far as the arts are concerned. It's just that, you start to paint and you start to draw, and you immediately struggle because you want to learn to be better. And you're aware of your flaws, you're aware of what you're capable and what you're not capable of doing, and at least from that point, because as you grow, you'll be aware of more things. And then one of the things is, as you grow, what you can't do is start looking at all the people around you and start envying their ability, because there are going to be a lot of people who are better. There are going to be a lot of people who are at the same level. There are going to be people who may not be at the same level as you, but there are people at all different levels, and you can't look at someone else and judge your work by someone else's output. However, when you see someone whose work you admire, it's a good thing to continue to admire and look at the things that you admire in that person's work to help inform your own work. And that's the reason why you look at other artists. That's the reason why you look at old masters or artists, professional artists that you like, or but you can even find, like, in your classroom, if you take art in the classroom, friends who you paint alongside or you work alongside, and you can see in their own work things that you admire. This happened when I went to High School of Art and Design. There were a lot of guys there who were great. We had a painting class, and there were guys there who were great, and I admired their work, and I wanted to not copy exactly what they did, but wanted to be as good as them, without the envy, without the feeling that I need to be better or so forth, or that they're better, and I just need to look at my work as if it sucks or whatever. I don't know, but regardless, the whole thing is that you can learn from anyone, and you have to have that attitude where you will learn from anyone. that you will have. The whole thing is not about. It's not about envying someone else's art. It's about personally growing. So what happens is that you get to a point where you're learning and stuff like that, and then what happens is you plateau. You just kind of, everything just seems to be, I don't know, a sameness, or you just seem to be coasting, and there doesn't seem to be much learning taking place. But then what happens is that you keep going. You keep going, you keep challenging yourself, you keep getting better, and you fuel yourself. You fuel yourself by looking at other artwork. You fuel yourself by going to museums. You fuel yourself by looking at books of artwork and stuff like that. If it's your passion, then you would be into this, and that you would look for not just your own art, but other art, because you love art. And you look at people who are at your wavelength in terms of the way they think, and this is, you know what you want to go for. When I went to college, what I didn't like about college was that everyone was trying to reconstruct. Instead of looking at what it is you're interested in, they're trying to teach you what your interest should be, and which I think is wrong. I think that, you know what, you need to look at the individual, because the artist is an individual who looks at life a certain way. You need to look at the individual, and you need to understand what that individual is trying to go for, and then point him or her in that direction, not point him or her to make it a copy of whoever you are. So anyway, so after you plateau and you keep on going, and then the growth starts kicking in, and then you'll reach another level, and you'll probably plateau again, and then you just keep going, and then you reach another level. And that's how growth takes place. That's how it was explained to me. As far as struggling is concerned, everybody's going to come to a place, and I don't know why it is that at certain levels, I feel anyway, and it's not unusual. Like, you need to learn to paint all over again, but it happens. I can remember, and this is why it's important to read about other artists. I can remember reading about how Norman Rockwell, at one point in his career, I think it was around the 1920s, 1930s, he was really struggling with his painting. He was really having a hard time with his painting. At one point, he painted on a single person 3 legs, not knowing that he did. And it was in one painting, and the legs actually, they were, the guy was leaning over, his hand on his knee, but it seemed like that hand on his knee, like that one part of the leg was going one way and the other part of the leg was going the other, and it made it appear as if the guy had 3 legs. Anyway, and he talked about it in his book, My Adventures as an Illustrator. And that's where I read it, and I have several books on different artists. So that's basically, it. He struggled just as anybody else with it. Norman Rockwell's going to struggle. However you feel about illustration, as far as his illustration, fine art, doesn't matter. He was a good technical painter. However else you think about it, that he was good at that. And for him to make a mistake like that, for him to struggle like that, means that, anybody else can struggle as well. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap up this painting pretty soon. And if this conversation helped, if this video helped, please give it a like, share it, and also make any comments down below. Like I said, I'll leave the link to Sketchbook down below. But that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks a lot. Let me know. Bye-bye.